This story is a profound family drama about the cost of secrets and the power of truth. The main heroine, 62-year-old Ophelia Walters, has raised her daughter Vivienne alone her entire life. When Vivienne prepares to marry, she dreams of a lavish, princess-style wedding. To make it happen, Ophelia sells almost everything: the old house, family heirloom jewelry, even cashes out her pension early. The ceremony day begins like a fairy tale come to life: flowers, music, distinguished guests. Yet the climactic moment turns into public humiliation. The groom, Bradley, slices the wedding cake, then deliberately spits on a piece, hands the plate to Ophelia, and hisses venomously, "You'd be better off dead and forgotten." The stunned mother faints. Doctors soon diagnose a heart attack. If the sharpest blade is the one your own child hands you, then listen closely, because mine carved through bone and memory at a wedding covered in silk and icing. I'm Ophelia Walters, and before my confession unfurls, tell me in the comments, what time is it on your clock? And from which city are you lending me your ears? Knowing the hour you keep will anchor me while I relive the day my heart was pawned for a fairy tale dream that soured into nightmare. The morning of Vivian's wedding smelled of cut gardenias and fresh varnish. My daughter had always whispered about walking an aisle scattered with rose quartz and gold, like some sun-kissed princess stepping out of a childhood scrapbook. I vowed to make it real. So I sold my late mother's freshwater pearl brooch, emptied the high-interest savings I'd been nursing since widowhood year one, even signed away the deed to our creaking craftsman cottage. Each signature felt like peeling off another layer of my skin, but I call those small deaths love. Guests drifted through the reception hall in champagne glitter, murmuring that the crystal chandeliers looked like upside-down constellations. I glowed under their praise, convinced every compliment was a thank you note to the sacrifice no one saw. I watched Vivian swirl in her cloud-white gown, her laughter chiming against the string quartet's lilting version of Clair de Lune. Beside her stood Bradley, tall, gleaming, the sort of ambitious banker whose smile always looked as if it had already negotiated the upper hand. He pressed possessive fingers into the small of her back, and something inside me twitched, but I brushed it off as motherly nerves. "Mrs. Walters," he had said earlier while adjusting his cufflinks, "all this beauty. Your handiwork, I hear." I'd blushed like a schoolgirl. Now I wonder if that blush was the first hint of fever before an infection you never notice until it sears. Just before the cake cutting, Vivian slipped over and squeezed my palms. "Mom, you outdreamed my dream," she murmured. Tears glittered on her lashes, pearls echoing pearls. In that instant I thought, every pawned memory was worth this. But stay with me, because a single breath later, the ballroom sweetness would curdle and the taste of shame would coat every crystal plate. You'll want to see how swiftly joy can flip its mask. The cake itself was a 5-tier cathedral of buttercream and sugared peonies. A hush fell as Bradley lifted the silver serving knife. Photographers leaned in. Cell phone screens rose like a forest of black mirrors. Vivian giggled when the blade stuck half an inch, and the crowd answered with polite laughter. I held my phone too, intending to capture the moment my child's fairy tale rounded its highest note. Bradley carved a generous slice, balanced it on a bone china plate, and turned not toward Vivian, as tradition demands, but toward me. His jaw flexed, eyes narrowing to 2 cold coins. He tilted the plate, letting a blue sugar flower tumble across the icing, and then, in a motion so swift it sliced the hush in half, he leaned, spat onto the pristine frosting, and hissed through his teeth, "It should have been you in the ground, forgotten by everyone." Gasps detonated around us. Someone's flute of Prosecco shattered against marble. I felt the floor tip like a capsized boat. My lungs seized as though confetti had become shards. Bradley straightened, offered the fouled slice toward me like a grotesque communion, then set it on a nearby tablecloth. White on white, disgrace seeping into cotton. I wanted to ask why, to beg for context the way the body begs for air underwater, but my voice locked behind a wall of saltwater tears. A stifled sob escaped my chest. I remember heat flooding my temples, vision tunneling until only that ruined plate remained sharp. Through the spinning room, I heard Vivian cry out, "Bradley, what?" Her veil fluttered as she stumbled between us. A tidal wave of whispers rolled from guest to guest, pity morphing into voyeuristic thrill. Beneath the chandelier's icy glare, I felt my knees buckle. The last thing I saw was a petal of icing sliding from Bradley's spit-stained masterpiece, landing at my feet like a discarded promise. Darkness swallowed the crystal constellations. Silence rushed in, endless and black. Yet even as I collapsed, some stubborn ember inside me whispered, "You haven't plummeted to the deepest layer yet. Hospital ceilings are liars. They promise neutrality, cool tiles, quiet lights. Yet above every bed floats the memory of a catastrophe, pressed flat like a dried rose no one dares remove." I opened my eyes to those vanilla squares, scent of antiseptic needling my nostrils. My right hand was imprisoned in a smaller, familiar grip. "Stay still, O," my sister Clara whispered, eyes red-rimmed. I tried to sit. Pain whined behind my ribs. Cords tugged at my wrist. IV tubing tethered me to a rolling tree of plastic and blinking numbers. "What happened?" My words scraped. "You collapsed. Arrhythmia tipped into a mild infarction. They stabilized you." She swallowed. "Doctor says you're lucky. Another minute without oxygen and—" Lucky. A strange adjective for someone whose daughter's groom weaponized sugar and spit. I licked cracked lips. "Where's Vivienne?" Clara's expression shuddered. She stared at the vitals monitor as if the green line could answer for her. "Forget her," she said finally, voice like a door clicking shut. "Don't call, don't write. She told me. She doesn't want you near her life." The monitor beeped quicker. "That's impossible," I croaked. "She loves me." Clara squeezed my fingers until joints ached. "Rest. The cardiologist will explain discharge procedures in the morning." When she stepped away, sunlight speared between blinds, slicing her silhouette into bars like she was visiting me in an emotional prison I hadn't realized I'd built. All-night machines hummed a mechanical lullaby, but each time the morphine drifted me toward sleep, Bradley's hiss invaded, dragging me back. "Better if you died." Why such venom? I'd financed their fairy tale. Why resent the hand that wrote the check? Sometime after midnight, a nurse adjusted my pillows. "Big day turned sour?" she asked gently, scanning my chart. Wedding glitter still clung to my curls. I nodded. Tears pooled. She dabbed them away. "I've seen families shatter over things unsaid. Glass hearts look sturdy until one good tap." Then she dimmed the lights. Her words fluttered above me, persistent as moths. Things unsaid. At dawn, Clara returned with a thermos of weak tea. My voice had steadied into raspy resolve. "Tell me everything Vivian said," she sighed. "She was shaking, oh. Told me she warned you not to overplay martyr. Said your spectacle stole her night. Bradley was just defending her." My stomach flipped. How could she think that was my doing? Clara's gaze softened. Grief can warp sight. Maybe she's grieving something older than last night. Older. The word pulsed. Beneath the haze of sedation, a memory stirred 20 years ago. Hospital corridors painted the same muted beige. My own mother clasping a bundle while nurses whispered about forged signatures and whispered scandals. I shoved it aside back then, bearing it under diapers, school recitals, prom dresses. But the earth keeps turning secrets until they surface like bones after heavy rain. Before rounds, I requested a discharge AMA against medical advice. The cardiologist balked. I signed anyway. I had debts to confront, and none of them were monetary. Clara drove me home. Silence thick between us. As we passed the pawn shop where my grandmother's brooch now slept behind bulletproof glass, shame prickled my skin. Back in my apartment, a downsized one bed nestled above a laundromat, I found fragments of the life I'd liquidated. Open wardrobe, 3 dresses left. Bookshelves gutted. An echo lived in each empty space. I sank onto the sofa, palms over heart, counting beats. Better you died. The insult perched like a crow on the coffee table. At noon, I opened social media. Wedding photos already trended local hashtags. In every polished frame, I was absent. It was as if I'd been scrubbed from the narrative, a ghost financing a gala she couldn't haunt. I scrolled until a video autoplayed, Bradley proposing toast. To my radiant wife, free at last from shadows. Laughter, applause. And then, beneath a comment thread, did you see that monster mother faint for attention? Good riddance. Tears blurred text, but anger crystallized something important. Narratives are knives, and right now, mine belonged to anyone wielding a keyboard. I needed to sharpen my own blade of truth. Keep listening, because the secret I locked away 2 decades ago is rattling its cage, and when it breaks loose, it will redraw every line between love and betrayal you thought you understood. 2 days later, a thick envelope slid under my door. No return address, just my name scrawled in blue ink that trembled as if the pen were driven by second thoughts. Inside, wedding programs, unopened RSVP cards, and a single Polaroid. Bradley standing behind my daughter, hand on her shoulder like a puppeteer's brace. On the back, block letters, "Mind your place, Ophelia." Adrenaline jangled along my healing ribs. I dialed Vivian, voicemail. I typed paragraphs, deleted them. Finally, I sent a 3-sentence text. I love you. I'm sorry you're hurting. Can we talk? The bubbles never appeared. By dusk, I marched to Clara's. She opened the door mid-argument with her teen about curfew, and for a moment, mundane chaos felt deliciously normal. We sat at her kitchen island where childhood scars were once disinfected after bicycle crashes. Help me remember, I pleaded. What happened the week Vivian was born? The thing we never spoke of? Clara's spoon clanged against a mug. You want to unearth that now? It's already sprouting through concrete, she exhaled. Fine. You delivered at Mercy South because you were 19 and embarrassed. The doctor handed you forms. You adjusted them. Instead of listing the father, Ethan Mason, you put unknown. The name detonated like a flare revealing an old battlefield. Ethan, the aspiring musician who vanished when 2 pink lines shattered our innocence. He'd begged me to keep quiet until his big break, but when labor pangs gripped, he was headlining cheap bars 2 states away. In panic and pride, I decided my baby would never chase love the way I had. So I erased him with 1 stroke of a pen. Clara continued. When Mom found out, she called it protective. I called it a lie. You swore one day you'd tell Vivian. Her eyes softened. Oh, secrets rot. Maybe Bradley found that birth record. My heartbeat hammered irregular staccato, reminding me the cardiologist's warning still hung overhead. Manage stress or invite a second attack. But another truth pressed harder. If my daughter felt her life was built on sand, spitting was just the quake's first tremor. That night I opened a battered attic trunk where keepsakes lived. Between kindergarten drawings and ticket stubs lay an unopened letter dated 18 years ago, Ethan's handwriting. For Vivi's 18th birthday had been scribbled across the front. My fingers tingled. I'd hidden it the day it arrived, fearful it might poison her milestones with questions I couldn't answer. But fear had fermented into poison anyway. I broke the seal. The paper smelled of cedar and regret. Sweet Vivian. If you're reading this, your mother found it in time. I lost her, not you, because I was a coward chasing songs instead of souls. I hope to meet you when you're old enough to decide for yourself. Until then, know you were never unwanted. No phone number, just a mailing address in Nashville. I Googled. The venue had burned down 10 years prior. Any lead smoldered to ash. My reflection in the attic window looked unfamiliar, skin sallow, eyes hollow. I pressed fists to sternum, breathing through the ache. I owe her the unvarnished truth, I whispered, throat shredding. You think confrontations happen in shouting matches? Sometimes they're drafted with shaking hands at 3 a.m., and the reply can split a lifetime down its spine. Don't step away now. Viviana's answer would ignite every bridge I still hope to cross. I spent dawn crafting a letter. 19 pages of confession, apology, explanation. I tucked the Polaroid and Ethan's note inside, then hand-delivered the packet to Viviana's new condo, sliding it through her mail slot. Walking back, I rehearsed possibilities. She'd call in tears, she'd rage, but listen. She'd meet me halfway. None arrived. Instead, 3 nights later, police lights bathed my hallway in blue. An officer served a restraining order. Bradley Archibald and Vivian Archibald request that Ophelia Walters maintain a distance of 100 yards. My knees quivered. On what grounds? I asked. Harassment, emotional distress, he read. The ink on the signature line bled as though Vivian's pen had paused. Indecision dissolved in acid. After he left, I curled on the floor, phone clutched, rereading the order until words blurred. Better if you died, echoed, but deeper, older whispers surfaced. You built this fracture, self-loathing coiled like barbed wire. At sunrise, Clara stormed in, brandishing her cell. Have you checked the Chronicle website? Headline, Heiress's mother poses as benefactor revealed as fraud. Bradley's publicist had spun a story. My donations were self-aggrandizing stunts. My collapse a manipulative ploy to steal limelight. The article even hinted at historical dishonesty about Viviana's paternity, painting me as serial fabricator. Panic clamped my chest. He's burning my name to salt the earth. Clara's jaw set. Fight back. How? Truth sounds like excuse now. She paced, then show receipts, literal ones. Bank transfers, pawn slips, that letter from Ethan. Let the world weigh evidence. But the FOMO inside me, fear of missing the fleeting moment when my daughter might still hear me, screamed for action, less public, more intimate. I called an old friend, Marcus, now a family law attorney. He listened, then said, defamation suit is possible, but emotional wounds can't wait on court calendars. Mediation could force a sit-down. He arranged an emergency session, hoping Viviane would agree. The mediator's office smelled of stale cinnamon. I arrived early, hands trembling around chamomile tea. When the door finally opened, only Bradley entered. Viv isn't coming. She prefers peace. He smirked like a cat with feathers on its lips. I slid Ethan's letter across the table. You weaponized her hurt. Read this. He scanned a line, scoffed. A deadbeat's apology? Cute. But Vivian already has a father now, me, and I don't need the ghost of your past haunting our legacy. I leaned in. Legacy built on deceit crumbles. Ask any banker who ignored termite damage. His smile faltered a millimeter. Careful, Mrs. Walters, stress kills. He tapped my chest lightly, exactly where the monitor leads had clung. Rage sizzled, but fear of arrhythmia held me. Bradley rose. We're filing to annul your financial contributions as coercive. The narrative will paint you a predator leeching off your daughter's happiness. As he left, the mediator muttered, "He's bluffing on half of that, but half a bluff can still topple a weary opponent." Driving home, a dull throb radiated down my arm. I pulled over, breathed until stars cleared. Inside the glove box lay Grandpa's worn New Testament. A verse fluttered out, underlined decades ago. "The truth will set you free." I traced the ink, heart pounding steady again. Back at my apartment, I uploaded scans of every payment receipt to cloud storage, emailed copies to Marcus, and, hands shaking, prepared a video statement. No makeup, no filters. Just raw me before a webcam. "I'm Ophelia Walters," I began, voice trembling but clear. "I financed my daughter's wedding because love asked. I collapsed because cruelty answered. Here's the documented truth, and here's a letter her biological father wrote to her. I hid it out of fear of exactly this heartbreak. The rest is for Vivian to decide, but lies end now." I hit publish, heart hammering. Already comments flooded, strangers choosing sides, friends shocked into silence. Somewhere in that digital storm was my daughter, maybe clicking, maybe scrolling past. Hold tight. The view counter wasn't the only thing that exploded that night. By morning, one unexpected voice would break the silence, and its echo would drag every secret into daylight. The video reached 50,000 views by dawn. My phone buzzed dangerously. Reporters, distant cousins, church acquaintances. I ignored them all until an unknown number flashed. "Ethan Mason." My lungs stalled. I answered, "Ophelia?" His voice was gravel wrapped in velvet, older yet unmistakable. "I saw your video. Someone tagged the record label forum." Silence stretched, humming with 20 years of undone sentences. "Your letter. Vivian never read it," I managed. "I know that's on me." He coughed. "I'm in town for a reunion gig. Let me talk to her. She deserves both sides." Hope flickered, fragile as gossamer. "She's barricaded behind Bradley." "Then we'll knock." We met at a downtown cafe. Ethan's hair, once flame red, showed streaks of frost. Regret mapped the lines at his eyes. He read every receipt, every news article. "Bradley smells opportunity," he concluded, "and shame is free fuel." Together we drove to Vivian's condo. Security refused entry. Ethan scribbled a note, slid it under the lobby door. "I'm not here to steal your story. I'm here because half of it is mine. Your mother bled to keep you safe from the man I was. Let me prove the man I became." Back in my apartment, we waited. Evening spilled purple across the sky. At 9, an email pinged, "Vivienne." Midnight. Parking deck. "Come alone." Ethan insisted on accompanying me, but promised distance. Midnight air tasted metallic. Vivian emerged from shadows, coat wrapped tight. Her eyes, once dandelion bright, stared storm gray. "I watched your video," she said. "I don't know what to believe." I offered no rehearsed speech, only the letter. She unfolded it with trembling hands. Headlights from a passing car illuminated the words. Tears slicked her cheeks. "Why hide this?" she whispered. "Cowardice," I admitted, "and love twisted by fear." From behind a column, Ethan stepped forward, hands raised. Vivian gasped. He spoke softly. Stories of rehab, charity gigs, a stable job tuning guitars for symphonies. "I was broken," he finished. "Your mother tried to keep the shards from cutting you." Vivian looked between us. Bradley said she staged everything for attention. Bradley profits from power, Ethan answered. Truth threatens that. Footsteps echoed, Bradley appearing, fury sparking. So this is the circus, he sneered. He grabbed Viviana's arm. We're leaving. She wrenched free. Not until I finish. Bradley's mask slipped. Your mother's lies ruined your name. I stepped forward. No, Bradley, my lie protected hers. Your cruelty did the rest. His fist balled, but Ethan positioned himself between us. Security sirens wailed. Someone had triggered an alarm. Red lights pulsed over the scene like a warning heart. You think resolution blooms in calm rooms? Sometimes it erupts under flashing alarms, and the words spoken next can save or scorch everything. Stay with me. The scorch was coming. Security guards swarmed. Bradley spun a tale of trespassing parents. Vivian shocked them silent. They're my family. Let them speak. Guards retreated. Bradley's jaw twitched. Fine, talk. Then choose. I inhaled. I forged that birth record. I robbed you of a father's name because mine abandoned me at 9. I believed anonymity safer than absence. Tears blurred Ethan's outline, but secrecy bred rot, and rot drew vultures. Viviana listened, shoulders quake still. Bradley, she asked, voice a blade sheathed in calm, did you know this before the wedding? He hesitated. I found documents while planning our prenup. Why weaponize it today? Because she wouldn't stay out of the spotlight. His composure crumbled. Every vendor talked about her sacrifices. I wanted them talking about us. The petty cruelty rang louder than any orchestral swell of vows. Vivian's mouth trembled. You spat on the woman who sold her history for my happiness. Bradley reached, desperation leaking. I love you. No, she said, stepping back. You love control. Storm clouds above burst. Rain hammered asphalt like applause from unseen gods. Bradley stalked off into the downpour, umbrella snapping under frantic hands. Security escorted him away amid a tangle of legal threats. Soaked, shivering, Vivian faced us. I'm angry. You both kept pieces of me from me. Ethan nodded. Blame where it's due, but let anger paint truth, not walls. She exhaled. I need time. She hugged herself, then, to my astonishment, hugged me. Wet fabric clinging between heartbeats. Mom, don't die before I figure this out. I laughed through tears. Deal. Cardiologist's orders. A week later, Vivian filed for an annulment. Tabloids devoured it, but public sympathy shifted when she released a statement acknowledging my documented sacrifices. Donations poured into heart disease charities in my name. Strangers sent letters. Your video saved my family from silence. That validation warmed, yet humility gnawed. My confession had traveled further than my courage ever had. Vivian and I began Sunday tea rituals, awkward, earnest. One afternoon, she unboxed her wedding gifts. Among crystal vases lay my grandmother's pearl brooch. I bought it back, she said, voice soft. You pawned dreams for me. Time to return one. Tears redotted our saucers, but storms rarely pass without aftershocks. Marcus called. Bradley's suing for defamation, claiming your video cost him a promotion. Court looming. Stress threatened my mending arteries. Night before the hearing, I prayed beside my window, palms over the pulse that once failed. Deliver us from bitterness, I whispered. In answer, strange peace. Court morning. Bradley arrived alone. His lawyers withdrew after evidence of his leak to tabloids surfaced. Judge dismissed the suit, chastising him for malicious intent. Outside, reporters mobbed. Bradley glared at cameras. She'll always be a fraud. Then his gaze slid to a waiting Uber, Vivian stepping out, flanked by Ethan. She approached Bradley, handed him annulment papers and a small velvet box. "Your ring," she said. "It was never more than a circle of brass-painted gold." Bradley's shoulders sagged. He pocketed the box, refusing comment, and vanished into the crowd. Inside courthouse steps, Vivian exhaled. "Free." I squeezed her hand. "Freedom tastes like truth." 3 months after the courthouse victory, my cardiologist declared my heartbeat remarkably stable for a woman who's wrestled a tornado. He warned, though, that storms often return where they once found purchase. I nodded, brushing my fingers across the pearl brooch now gleaming on my lapel, proof that even heirlooms can carry second chances. Strengthened but cautious, I devoted my mornings to cardiac rehab walks beneath sycamores whose leaves blushed gold at the first hint of autumn. The hush of their canopies sounded like pages turning, an invitation to write life anew. Vivian honored that invitation in ways that startled me. She moved out of Bradley's condo and into a modest 2-story townhouse only 7 blocks from my apartment, a place with peeling paint but wide windows that welcomed dawn. On her first night there, she unlocked the door and called, "Mom, it echoes in here. Let's fill it with something worth hearing." We filled it with mismatched furniture bought at yard sales, with Ethan's guitar propped in the foyer, with homemade marinara that splattered on unpacked boxes. Every knock of a drawer felt like Braille teaching us how to read each other from scratch. Ethan became the melody under that newfound rhythm. He tuned guitars for the City Symphony by day and played dive bar blues at night. Sometimes he strummed softly on Viviana's porch while I watered geraniums. Other times he roared through a 12-bar solo so fierce even passing cyclists tapped handlebars in time. He and I avoided mentioning the 20-year void between us, choosing instead to braid the present, sheet music jokes, shared recipes, the simple relief of breathing in the same paragraph of time. One September Saturday, he invited us to his comeback gig. The venue was less comeback than community center gym, but the folding chairs were packed. Standing backstage, he squeezed my wrist. "I owe this to you," keeping her safe while I was off chasing hollow applause. Before I could answer, stage lights snapped on, painting him in honeyed gold. He played 3 songs, each note a stitched apology. The crowd erupted. Vivian clasped my shoulders, eyes sparkling with the kind of pride I hadn't seen since her high school debate championship. In that instant, the past didn't vanish, but it exhaled, loosening its stranglehold. "Yet storms," the doctor said, "remember their old addresses." 2 weeks later, while we ate chili and cornbread in my kitchen, Ethan's fork clattered to the floor. He bent double, a sharp gasp shredding his laughter. Alarm carved a cold trench down my spine. At the ER, scans lit up with ominous constellations. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, metastasis already mapping his liver like uninvited tourists. Prognosis, 3 to 6 months. Vivian collapsed into my arms in the hallway where disinfectant overpowered the smell of fear. "I just got him back," she sobbed. "Time can't be that cruel." I stroked her hair, wishing my fingers could turn clock hands. "Then we'll stretch every minute until it sings." We moved Ethan into hospice care, a converted Victorian perched atop a hill overlooking the river. The building smelled of lavender sachets and softly used books, as if determined to cradle dignity. Vivian decorated his room with fairy lights and framed photos she'd printed at a drugstore kiosk. Ethan in high school band uniform, me holding newborn Vivienne, eyes swollen with exhaustion and wonder. The 3 of us at the symphony stage door only a month earlier. For 6 hauntingly beautiful weeks, that room became a bonfire of stories. Each afternoon, I arrived with fresh-baked banana bread and yesterday's mailed letters, messages from viewers who'd seen my video. A grandmother in Ohio wrote, "Your honesty convinced me to tell my daughter about the half-sister she never met." A trucker from Phoenix confessed, "I pulled over and called my estranged father for the first time in 10 years. I read these aloud while Ethan rested, eyelids fluttering to the cadence of redemption. At night, when Vivian's shift began, she streamed Ethan's favorite jazz records on a tiny Bluetooth speaker. I once walked in to find them slow dancing, IV pole marking time like a cautious metronome, under the faint glow of fairy lights. She rested her cheek on his chest, counting heartbeats she knew were numbered. When she noticed me, she whispered, "He says every step we take right now reverberates in eternity." I swallowed tears that tasted of broken clocks and miraculous seconds. Ethan, ever the songwriter, insisted on recording voice memos for us, to be played on rainy days or when self-doubt roars, he joked, sitting in a wingback chair. Mic clipped to his collar, he spoke lullabies of forgiveness. "Vivian, when shame knocks, remember that love answers the door, not fear. Ophelia, when regret howls, remind it that you stared it down and lived." He ended each memo with a fragile guitar chord, fingers trembling yet resolute. One dawn, with frost feathering the hospice windows, Ethan motioned me closer. "Forgive the boy I was." His voice was a candle's last flicker. "I forgave him the night I feared you'd never come home," I answered. Forgiving myself took longer. He smiled, wistful, relieved, and pressed a sliver of paper into my palm. It was a song bridge he'd never finished. Time isn't the thief, silence is. Later that morning, as sun spilled gold across his blanket, his breaths thinned to whispers and finally stilled. The machines fell silent, as if kneeling. I folded his hands around the slip of lyrics, closing the circle he'd opened. Grief is an insistent teacher. She assigns homework when your pencil is dull. The weeks after the funeral felt like swimming in oatmeal, every motion heavy, every breath sweeter for its ache. Vivian and I spent evenings working through Ethan's memos, labeling them for courage, for fragile mornings, for wild happiness. We laughed when one file began with him humming off-key. We cried when another ended mid-sentence. We hung his guitar on our living room wall, strings muted by a soft cloth so they wouldn't jangle in drafts and startle us. Meanwhile, the legal aftershocks of Bradley's malice still lurked. Though the judge had dismissed his defamation suit, he appealed, desperate to salvage reputation at the firm he believed my video had cost him. Marcus reassured me, appeals courts dislike soap operas. Still, court envelopes triggered palpitations. Remembering my cardiologist's warning, I turned each panic spike into a walk, sometimes with Vivian, sometimes alone beneath the sycamores. I whispered to their branches, "Teach me how to shed what no longer serves." And leaf by leaf they demonstrated. Public opinion, however, had already picked its side. Bradley's final attempt at narrative control backfired when screenshots surfaced of him mocking charity donors in a private group chat. His firm placed him on unpaid leave, citing ethical concerns. In a last spiteful gesture, he mailed me the tarnished brass ring Vivian had returned to him, this time snapped in two. I studied the broken circle, then dropped it into the river where sycamore roots dipped thirsty toes. Some metals aren't worth reforging. One crisp Saturday, sky so blue it felt borrowed, Vivian surprised me with plane tickets to Nashville. "Dad wanted us to see where he learned to be brave," she said. The city greeted us with live music spilling onto sidewalks and murals bright enough to chase shadows. We located the charred lot where Ethan's first venue had stood before the fire. It was now a community garden. Volunteers recognized his name from my channel and led us to a baby oak planted in his honor months earlier. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Time isn't the thief, silence is." My breath hitched. A teenage guitarist strumming nearby switched mid-riff into Ethan's unfinished bridge, having learned it from his posthumous demo. The melody floated across autumn air, carrying our grief on brand new wings. That night, in a modest Airbnb, Vivian and I brewed chamomile and opened the last of Ethan's voice memos labeled simply "For Tomorrow." His voice, thin but steady, said, "If you're hearing this, I'm probably jamming with angels who finally get my tempo. Remember, secrets are debts. Pay in truth before interest breaks you. And if lightning strikes twice, don't curse the sky. Build taller lightning rods." He chuckled, strummed the chord of G, and the recording clicked off. We sat silently, tea cooling in cups. Finally, Vivienne whispered, "Tomorrow is a big word, isn't it?" "It's elastic," I said. "It stretches to fit everything we dare mend." Back home, I decided to stretch it further. Inspired by letters from viewers, I launched a weekly live stream called Pearl Fridays, where guests, ordinary people, confessed long-buried truths and found communal absolution. We opened each episode with Ethan's guitar intro, courtesy of the hospice recordings. Within months, subscribers eclipsed 500,000. Comments poured in during each session. "It's 2:07 a.m. in Manila. Hearing this saved my marriage." "Hello from Cape Town, 1845. Today I told my mother she's my hero." The ticking clock roll call became ritual, a living mosaic of global honesty. My heart felt like a lighthouse, its beam sweeping far-flung shores, guiding ships through the fog of silence. On Christmas Eve, Vivian and I held a small memorial service at the community garden, weather brisk enough to numb fingers but not resolve. Marcus attended, guitar over his shoulder, and strummed Ethan's bridge while we read viewer letters aloud. Under that baby oak, we buried a time capsule containing the broken brass ring, the court dismissal order, a copy of my viral video transcript, and a USB drive filled with Ethan's memos. "To be opened in 20 years, Vivian declared, so someone else can measure how truth grows." We pressed soil down together, palms mud-streaked but steady. Later, as twilight stitched pink thread across the horizon, I recorded one more video from my porch swing. "Good evening, wherever you are. It's 1913 here in Brookshire, and the sycamores have finally let go of their last leaves. I used to think tragedy was a thief, but I was wrong. Tragedy only takes what secrets point to. When we speak light, we lock the doors against disaster, or at least face it with windows flung wide. So tell me, friends, what hour is it by you? Name your city, name your truth. Let's keep paying our debts together, pearl by pearl." As I hit upload, wind rustled geraniums on the sill, making them nod as if in agreement. The brooch at my collar glimmered, light reflecting off its surface the way hope reflects off an honest heart. I closed my laptop, breathing in the cool night. Storms may revisit, but they will find me armed with taller lightning rods and rooms echoing with songs of candor. And if my heart one day fails despite every caution, let the record show it finally beat to a rhythm unmarred by silence. Because that is the moral etched on every pearl returned, every secret confessed, every minute stretched until it sings. Truth might not spare us sorrow, but it buys us something sorrow never can. Peace that outlasts the storm,